We're already in a crisis. Like if you listen to the dentist right now, we're in a crisis situation. We have over 3,000 jobs available for dental assistants. This is a crisis.
Is that the Ontario number right now? 3,000 open positions for dental assistants.
Yes, it's a crisis.
How can a set of skills lead you down the path to success? That's what we're setting out to answer on the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm your host, Michael Sangster. Join me as we unpack how leaders around the world have taken training and skills and turned that into a lasting career. Now let's learn together.
Welcome back to a special edition of the EdUp Canada podcast in recognition of Dental Assistants Recognition Week. That's a mouthful. At NACC, our member colleges train thousands of dental assistants each year across Canada, preparing students with the hands-on clinical skills needed to enter one of the country's most in-demand healthcare careers. This week, we're celebrating the professionals working behind every smile and the critical role dental assistants play in delivering safe, effective oral care. Today, I'm joined by a lady I know, Cheryl Russell-Julien, a leader in the career college sector, and also the president of the Ontario Dental Assistants Association, works with regulated career colleges, and a leader within our NACC member colleges, along with Tara Fitzpatrick, CEO of the ODAA. So we managed to bring together the ODAA and the NACC with a couple of CEOs today. Together, the two of them bring frontline education experience and provincial advocacy leadership to this conversation we're having around the importance of dental assistants. So with that, why don't we get jumping and get going here? Cheryl, Tara, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Michael.
So we're going to jump right in here and get into some questions. So maybe I'm going to start with Cheryl, because this is going to be a fun interview because there's going to be a lot of people in our sector learn about you. How long did you practice as a dental assistant?
So, Michael, I've been practicing for over 45 years. And part of that was working as a dental assistant, starting off working chairside assistant with a lovely dentist, actually, and then going into public health dentistry and doing that for several years, and then moving into a career college as an instructor where I taught for several years. I think I had over 200 students that I actually taught in that time. And then I also went on to going into more of a leadership role in a career college, and then continued on that path with my working with a large company, being a director of their healthcare programs, and then now into a director of academics and quality assurance. And all the skills that I had were from dental assisting that were transferable into my current career.
Tara, let's talk about you. Talk about your own experience, your own job. What led you to this career? Why do you enjoy it so much?
Okay, so I went to the University of Western Ontario first and got my Bachelor of Arts in History. Really wasn't finding anything that I loved doing that. So I went to Fanshawe College in 1998. It's actually the very first year that they had the Level 1 and Level 2 program. Did that and started working private practice for 13 years. Really loved that. Went from dental assisting onto dental reception and did some treatment coordinating. And then there was an amazing opportunity that came up to work at the ODAA. It was rare to have that happen in London because typically these kinds of associations are based in Toronto. But this particular one is in London where I live. So I got that job and started working as a case manager for about 7 years, worked up to member outreach manager. And then now for about 5.5 years, I've been working initially as the ED, and now my name has been changed to CEO. So that's kind of the path that I took. But again, just like Cheryl said, a lot of the skills that I have now and have helped me in this role were because of my role as a dental assistant.
What's the current demand for dental assistants in Ontario right now? I really want to get out of that because you touched on job security. I have some friends in the dental sector, and they talk about how they need hygienists, how they need dental office assistants. They need people who can run the practice, but also dental assistants. What's that job demand out there right now for people who graduate from a program?
It's huge. Right now, there is a dental assisting shortage in Ontario. The latest statistics state that 2/3 of all dental offices, or most dental offices anyway, in Ontario require at least one dental assistant. So what that means is for people that are working in the field or people that are going to be coming in the field, there's a lot of opportunities for good jobs. We actually say it's a career rather than a job, but because of that, there's a lot of job stability and negotiating power for the dental assistant right now.
That's interesting. One of the lines I use is that career colleges move people from jobs to careers. So it's interesting for you to say that. We jokingly say sometimes, but it's completely true that we take people from Tim Hortons to working in logistics, from this job to a career path, that their future, their entire family changes when someone graduates from a career college. So Cheryl, you are much more familiar with our sector and what we do. I was recently appeared in Parliament and talked about some of the changes to career training grants that are going to be so detrimental to our sector. I talked about how a career college is approved, and then the program is approved, then the program is accredited by a third-party accreditor, then the government has to say you can start teaching the class. There's so many layers to regulation and approvals for our members, aren't they, that lead to great outcomes for students. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to become a dental assistant going through a career college?
Yeah, I mean, you're right on there, Michael. You just don't start a dental assisting program and start training dental assistants. I mean, there's a huge investment from a college in order for them to set up a actual dental assisting clinic, because we need to make sure that the program has all the facility to train. So it's a hands-on program. So not only do they need to learn the theory behind it, but they also need to have the hands-on part, which means you need dental chairs, you need to have x-ray machines, you need to buy all this extra equipment. Before you can even start running a program, you have to make sure that your program has been mapped to the competencies, that it meets the program standards, that you have an inspection before you start the program. Then you send your program into the NACC, and they're going to also look at your program outcomes to make sure that you are meeting the requirement of a dental assistant. You need to make sure that there's jobs out there. You need to make sure that you have the right faculty teaching. So there is a lot to going on to get a dental assisting program going. And one thing, with the schools that I have worked with over the years, everyone makes sure that those students are having that hands-on skill training so that they can enter their profession being true professionals within their career. And dental assisting is one. There's nothing else, Michael, when you think about it. What other career are you sitting next to your boss every minute of the day? What other career where they're seeing everything you're doing, right? So you have to be great.
I feel that way with my board some days, that it feels like they're sitting next to me, but they're a great group of volunteers like yourself in this position. Before I go back to Chery, I'm going to poke you with a question. How do you at a career college how do you build training to make sure that the expectations of the job meet the student as they go through the process and they don't get to the far end and go, this isn't for me? I know this is one of those struggles of making sure that they time and effort these individuals. We got a unique group of students that go to our colleges. They tend to be older, tend to be more mature, have children. They don't have time to waste taking a 2-year program that doesn't get somewhere. They need to get in, get trained, and get to work. So I'm interested a little bit of how do you think career colleges think about that process of getting out the far side?
I think we really look at focused training. We want to make sure that we are delivering programs that are meaningful, that are focused, that the students are going to have the skills, the knowledge that they will need to be successful in that profession. And it doesn't matter which one it is, whether it be dental assisting, whether it be med lab, whether it be diagnostic medical sonography. There is a lot of hands-on training, and we're there to support that student all the way through. I've gone to both publicly funded and career colleges. What I liked is that I got to spend time with my instructor. I got to really get to know my instructor, and they were there to help support me. A lot of people think that there isn't much to dental assisting, but what people don't understand, there's 200 different things that you do in a day as a dental assistant. So when that student leaves our facility, we want to make sure that they know what they're doing, that they're skilled, they have the knowledge, They're prepared to go out there and look after patients and give safe treatment to patients, right?
Tara, what are the priorities right now of ODAA? What's the main things your organization are worried about? And I'm going to add a little angle to this too. What are some of those conversations that you think are important we have over the next couple of years about your sector and your needs and your requirements?
Well, right now, Michael, there's a lot of really good advocacy efforts that are going on right now behind the scenes at the ODAA. First and foremost, we're really trying to advance the profession. We're trying to educate the public and dentists about why hiring formally trained dental assistants is so super important, because what that means essentially is it's all about public safety. Now, because there is a shortage, we want to really ensure that there's a decrease in the hiring by dentists of those that we call them helpers. So they're untrained, they're not formally trained. We really want to focus on that. There's also, we want to address, there's been some closures of some dental assisting programs. So we want to ensure that that's not happening anymore. Those are some of the big things that we're kind of working on behind the scenes right now.
And one of the things I like about this profession is that community colleges and career colleges both train for this role. But no one judges each other. It's really about just getting people trained to get to the workforce. There's an accreditor at the end of the line. There's all the right protections are in place for students and for employers that are going to hire the graduates. What needs to happen to make sure that the workforce pipeline is in place for you guys? Are there any recommendations or things you're asking of government or others to make sure you're getting that workforce? You mentioned the closure of schools as a concern. What are some of the other things that you're thinking about getting government help from, Tara?
Right now, I can tell you what's going on. And a lot of people don't understand this, that a lot of these careers that are being offered in career college, everybody's teaching to the same competencies, which means that when those students graduate, they all have to do the same certification exam. They all have to make sure that they pass. And if a dentist wants to utilize a level 2 dental assistant, they need to hire someone who's passed the NACC exam, and then they can actually perform those level 2 skills. They also need to hire people if they're taking x-rays, because you have to understand dental assistants are taking x-rays. X-rays can be dangerous if they're not used properly. So when people come out of the career colleges and community college, they're all learning the same skills. They all have taken their radiation program. We call it HARP. So they're all legally allowed to perform those skills. So I think there's always this mix match where people think that, oh, well, if you go to a career college, you're not getting the same education. You're getting the same education and sometimes better because you have smaller class sizes. And one thing, with Anderson College, I'd like to just speak to them, and Medics is doing the same thing. What they're doing is they believe so much in the profession that they're providing complimentary memberships to the ODAA so that those students are set up for success right away. So that when those students graduate, they're part of a profession that's going to help continue with their education, because education doesn't stop at school. You have to continue your education in order for you to stay certified. And I think it's really important for public to understand. And we're not a regulated province, Michael. All the other provinces are regulated except for Quebec. Quebec has different rules for this profession, but we're not a regulated profession. So the only way that you know that somebody has continued their education and really are part of a profession is when they're a member of the ODAA. And one thing that Medics and Anderson decided to do, they decided to put that as a complimentary membership for their students so that they can continue in their profession.
We hear about those kind of things, the importance of them when colleges do those connections directly into the community. It brings me back, and you guys can decide who to jump on this one for. How important is that practical training that goes along with the programs that colleges teach in Ontario and in the rest of Canada for the students who come out the far door for their success? I like what you're talking about that being a part of association, keeping that group together, keeping that ability to talk to other professionals about what's going on in their lives. So how important is that practical training they get while in a career college?
It's absolutely essential. It's what dentists should actually be looking for, because what it does is it bridges the gap between the theoretical knowledge and the practical application. So that's super important. What that does is it ensures that the student getting that training masters things like sterilization, radiography, chairside dental assisting, and all of those intraoral skills that define our scope of practice. So it's absolutely, we believe, essential that they have that component. and that component isn't just a small portion of the program, but it encompasses a lot of hours.
Let me make this a little personal for you, Tara. Your own life. How rewarding was it when you were a dental assistant? How much did you enjoy the career?
I loved it. And one of the reasons why I loved it so much is I worked in a particular office for about 11 years. And because as a dental assistant, if you're doing a lot of chairside, you are really the first point of contact for that patient. So there's so much relationship building. Oftentimes, I would go get the patient. You know them already. So you're talking about families and all of those different kinds of things. And a lot of times, you know that these particular patients have some fears. So you're allaying those fears. You're able to be really impactful in these patients' lives. So there's so much of that. If you're chairside assisting, you're doing, for me, I was doing some dental reception and some treatment coordinating. But for me, the most rewarding part of my job was the relationship building. And there's so much of that. And I still have people, and I haven't worked in private practice now for about 16 years. I still have people that I still consider friends. And a few of them have become really more like family. So for me, that was the biggest thing.
How much time or concern are you sharing with your members or thinking about with these changes to federal student grants and now the Ontario grant changes? Is this going to have a major impact on your sector and the training of these crucial graduates? And I think this thing I love about this job, I didn't come from a career education sector. I went to a grad, Herzing College's graduation in Ottawa, and I went, what is this? Who are these people that are graduating? The glee, the joy, the screaming and yelling at a family. Might be the first post-secondary graduate who comes out of a program in a family, and there's 20 people there from the family cheering and yelling and screaming, and it energizes me. But every time I learn a little bit more, so now we're doing some work around on dental this week, and I'm thinking, I never really thought of it as healthcare. It never triggered me as to the route that it took, and I had a nice chat with the lady from the Canadian Dental Assistant Association. And we were chatting away, and she said, it's the first part of healthcare. So many things can go wrong here that lead to other challenges. So talk to me a little bit about, are you guys sharing concerns? I'm seeing you nodding, Cheryl. Maybe you want to jump in about these changes that are going on in Ottawa now in Queen's Park.
We're very concerned. I mean, right now, I don't know whether you realize this, Michael, but most dental assistants in Ontario graduate from career colleges. Anderson alone had over 600 graduates. That's a lot of people. So if you, all of a sudden, some of those students decide they cannot afford to go to school and they can't go to a career college because there's only so many seats available at a community college, what's going to happen now? We're already in a crisis. Like if you listen to the dentists right now, we're in a crisis situation. We have over 3,000 jobs available for dental assistants. This is a crisis.
Is that the Ontario number right now? 3,000 open positions for dental assistants.
Yes. It's a crisis. When you think about what the government has done, we have this wonderful dental plan that's available to give people free dental care. But the dentist cannot give free dental care if they don't have an assistant. If an assistant isn't there in an office, the dentist cannot do their job. Like I said at the very beginning, there's 200 tasks that a dental assistant does on a daily basis. So we're talking about sterilization. We're talking about getting the instruments ready. We're about seating the patient, getting all the supplies ready, making sure that the products that they're going to use in the patient's mouth. Dental assistants also perform skills. So they're also coronal polishing. They're also putting on rubber dams. So there's all these intraoral skills that they can do. If you don't have a dental assistant available, a dentist cannot open the office. I talked to a dentist down in Cornwall, and he was telling me that they were unable to open their office for 3 days because their assistant was sick. And there was nobody to fill that space. So 3,000 people is a huge amount. If a student doesn't have the funding to go to school, who's going to look after these patients? It's really going to impact, and dentists are aware.
I agree with you. I hear this all the time, and we know the crucial role that we're playing in training these workers. We're deeply concerned about these issues. Tara, I don't know if you want to add anything or not to that.
Yeah, as Cheryl said, this is all for me because one of our biggest mandates is public safety. With all of these changes, and because there is such a shortage, this is just going to make this explode even more. What I think we're going to see, and I'm almost positive, is that we're going to see an increase in the hiring of what we call those untrained helpers, which again just comes back to a risk to harm to the public, which is, again, one of our biggest concerns.
And this is at a time when the government has rolled out a national dental care plan to make sure more people get dental care. And now there's a greater shortage of workers to make sure that we're getting it done right.
Right. It's all like a domino effect.
When you look at this whole thing, right? Do you want somebody untrained, an untrained helper, sterilizing your instruments that are going to go into your mouth? And you can't blame the dentist, because the dentist has to keep his business open. The dentist has to do whatever they can do. They're a business. And so, yes, it's health, but they still need to keep their office running. So we're not mad at the dentist by any sense of the imagination. We want the dentist to be successful, but they should be there needs to be funding for students to go to career colleges. There has to be something there for them. This is a high demand program.
And let's be clear, there is no effort to restrict the workforce here. There's an effort to get as many people trained as possible to fill these needs. This isn't about propping up wages or keeping controls in place. Let's get people trained and let's get them to work. Cheryl, I don't know, Tara, how much you spend time, but we know that that's what career colleges are good at, getting people in, getting them trained, and getting them to work. I'm glad to hear you talk about it in that way, but I had not heard crisis yet with this profession. So this is, as I like to say, hopefully our 12 listeners take that to root and go with it. But we have a little fun and we joke, but it's a crisis and it's deeply concerning to me now.
Michael, we can share some information with you where the dentist actually went, to Queen's Park to talk about the crisis right now. We're in such a severe situation. And like I said, we understand what the dentist has to do. We get it. We understand. But as a person who goes or somebody who sends my husband or my loved ones to a dentist, I want to know whoever's sitting there beside that dentist, assisting that dentist, is a trained professional dental assistant. And let's just say we have half of the amount of people going to a career college because they can't afford the funding to get to there. They're not going to get a grant to go to school. What are dentists going to do at this point?
I agree. We believe in targeted grants, targeted investments. I like to point out to listeners that aren't as familiar with our sector, we don't get operational funds from governments. Our members take risks. They invest. You've talked about a few colleges that you've worked with. They take big risks. They buy buildings. They buy equipment. Opening a dental lab is not a cheap undertaking to get going. And we need some government support on the other end to at least make sure it's a level playing field. Because I like to talk about the importance of choice. Let the students choose the program that fits their need, then make sure the regulations are in place to protect the students and the outcomes of them, and they can get good employment. But if a program at a career college that is faster and more targeted is what they need because of their own lifestyle with kids and work, why are we discouraging that? So, Tara, let's go a different direction for a second. What makes you optimistic?
So many things. Like I said, behind the scenes, because we do have so many advocacy efforts going on right now, we actually work, and just like Cheryl said, there's no blaming here of the dentist. We realize that they need to work. This ultimately is a business, and while, our mandate is public safety, we know that they can't run. Like, the dental assistant is literally the backbone of the practice. So without us, they can't run. But because we have such a close collaborative relationship with the Ontario Dental Association, there is a lot of hope. They are going to be launching very soon. It's a whole media campaign about how to combat this dental assistant shortage, starting just with, because one of the things that I think is so helpful and something that's so necessary is people need to understand what a dental assistant is, what we do, and why we're so valuable. So we're working with them quite closely on this media campaign to kind of highlight that. Oftentimes, people ask me what I do, where I work, and there's kind of sometimes people will think, oh, you're a dental hygienist. While there's lots of similarities, we're definitely not a dental hygienist. We're an assistant. So we are such a valuable, integral part of the oral healthcare team. So the work that the ODA and the ODAA is doing together, we hope we're going to start to change. We're educating the public on what we are. So the hope is that there's going to start to get some conversations happening within the dental office. So patients coming in and literally asking, okay, you know what? This is the dental assistant that's working within my mouth. We know that they're taking x-rays, they're primarily responsible for the infection prevention in the office. So let's start asking questions. Are these people they're working in my mouth, are they trained? Are they formally trained? Are they certified? So these are the things that we're hoping is going to start to happen. It's just educating the public. And sometimes without, sounding a certain way, it's educating dentists as well. And that's what we're hoping is going to come from this collaboration with the ODA. But there's a lot of hope still with all the things that are going on.
We might have a little surprise from NACC inside that ODA campaign. We've been talking to them. Really like some of the things they're looking at. Really glad to hear you're working together. Like it is all boats rise, right? Get the water level up, all boats will rise. So we may have some work that we're doing with them that we'll be pleased to talk about soon about promoting the sector and promoting jobs and helping them find career colleges. It's really, really crucial. So let me get back to a couple of questions we ask every guest, and I'm going to split them up because we usually don't have two. I'm going to ask each a different question. So I'm going to start with you, Cheryl. Talk to me about a mentor, because you're in a career college sector now, but you've also worked in a dental practice. One of the great things that comes out of our institutions is that training, that mentoring, that relationship that builds with our students. So we like to have a conversation for students that are listening to figure out how can they think about getting someone alongside for the ride that's made a difference for them. So can you tell me about someone who's been a mentor in your life that's made a difference for you?
Of course, my father has been a great mentor to me, and he's actually the one who got me into dental assisting because I wanted to be a mechanic. And I really loved working on cars. And my dad said to me, Cheryl, you don't want to have dirty nails. You don't want to have all this stuff. But, you're going to get to work with instruments and you get to work with mixing up things. I think you should really go and be a dental assistant. So my dad has been a great mentor to me, and he's walked me through my career. And if it wasn't for my dad, I would never have gone into dental assisting. And as I said at the very beginning, dental assisting has taught me all sorts of things. Not only you're not just sitting beside a dentist doing something. You have to develop all these extra skills and all these other communication skills and hands-on skills. I look back and I always say to my dad, I said, Dad, if you didn't do that to me and didn't talk about going to school to be a dental assistant, I would be where I am today. Because there's so many transformations that happen as a dental assistant. Working public health was amazing. Had I not gone to dental assisting, I couldn't have done that. I wouldn't have been able to work with career colleges. And what I learned through that whole thing, Michael, what sets us apart from a lot of the community colleges, half of our program is hands-on and half of it's theory. So you're building that foundational knowledge all the way through. So I would have to say my dad was my greatest mentor for me.
Awesome answer. It's funny how many guests called me afterwards and said, I had 4 more I thought of afterwards. Every episode, we're coming up on 100 episodes between a few of these podcasts, and I still think of new names of someone who impacted me. George Hood, when I took this job, was the perfect chair for me because he had a ton of experience in the sector, and the association was able to be a bit of a guiding light for me, and that was very helpful. So I'm going to come to you, Tara, with the other question we ask people, and it's about a skill, and I'm going to ask it in a different way than we usually do, but tell me about a skill that makes a dental assistant successful, and then maybe make it personal. Is it something you think you had or you had to develop, or something you naturally had?
I think one of the biggest skills, and I don't know how much this is talked about, but it's adaptability. We hear a lot about when a dental assistant graduates from the program, almost always, and we hear this, and again, I'm a really passionate supporter of career colleges. Even before we had the collaboration with Medix and Anderson, I'm going to just put it out there. Most of our students came from career colleges. We understand what's being taught there and how they look at things. They've always been a big supporter of the ODAA. So this collaboration that we have with them is wonderful. But we hear so much about when a dental assistant graduates, and they really do feel like when they're coming out of the program that they're ready, that they're prepared. And these programs, especially, and all of them, community colleges alike, but we hear a lot about the career colleges too, where they really do feel prepared coming out. But oftentimes, there might be a little bit of a disconnect when they get into the real world because it is dental assisting. It is really fast paced. And oftentimes, and especially now, you can be in an office where it's understaffed. So you really do have to be adaptable. You have to understand that sometimes, if someone's coming in and they have, a severe toothache and we have to take that tooth out, being adaptable, being able to kind of go with the flow. There's going to be days where you're going to have all these emergencies put in. You're going to be working maybe a little longer than you had hoped, but just kind of rolling with the punches and understanding that some days are going to be like this, but others aren't. So just kind of accepting that and knowing that it's for the greater good, that you're doing this for your patients who you have built these relationships with.
Natalie Marsh, who recently I interviewed and is going to be on a podcast as well with us from the Canadian Dental Assistants Association.
Yes, I do.
Her answer to that question about what is a skill that a dental assistant needs was adaptability. The exact same word you used.
Wow, that's great, because I do think that is the skill that is probably one of the most important skills to be a really effective dental assistant.
I find that very interesting that you both choose that same word. And I think about it when I sit in the chair, and if you want to take an absolute nightmare patient, it's this guy right here. When it comes to dentistry, I'll jump out of an airplane and pull a parachute. I haven't done it yet, but I want to. Bungee jump, anything. But I'm the worst dental patient ever. The gas is out pretty quick every appearance. Not good at it. And I watch, and those dental assistants are moving and they're hustling and they're jumping and they're guessing the next thing that needs to be done. And you can see the partnership with the dentist. So I think this would be a great practice for people. And we also had a great conversation, Megan and I, about the toll on the body too. It can be a tough body, and talking about how important posture is and keeping yourself in a good place physically so that you can actually continue to do the job, right? So I'm going to wrap up there, but I wanted just to give you both a chance for, 30 seconds a minute. I'll start with you, Tara. Anything that you want to add? Anything that you think people should know about the job, the role, the opportunities that exist, or the association's concerns or issues right now? What do you want to have a little riff on?
Well, I want to be positive because I really think that dental assisting is a really rewarding career. And I think one of the things that the ODAA has to really focus on is getting more students into the field so that we can kind of combat some of the things that are happening right now. But I really want people to understand that dental assisting can be a rewarding, impactful career. Like we said, it's not a job. It can be something that if you get into the right office, or even you don't have to work in an office, you can work in public health, you can work in a hospital. Look at me now, I'm working for the association. But I think it's really important for people to understand that if you decide to get into this and you get into the right office or in the right position for you, it can be something that you're going to do for your whole career. And it can be super rewarding. You can have, like I said, there's so much relationship building there. It can be super rewarding. And right now, with the way things are going in dental assisting, we have the edge. Dental assistants now and people going into it, we have some negotiating power. So I think it's really something that the ODAA has to work on, is trying to get more people into this field.
And let me go to your first comment, one of you made, is job security. And our learners tend to be a little more mature, have children, have concerns financially, and want to get job security. So your sector sounds like a really ideal position. Cheryl, you get to wrap us up today before I do the final wrap up. I'm not going to let you be host yet, Cheryl. I'm having a little fun with Cheryl today because we've known each other for a while. She's a great leader in our sector. So what do you want to talk about before we go away?
Well, I think my big beef right now is really the funding model for career colleges. I think that is something that's serious. It's going to impact how many dental assistants are going to get out there, just because, there are those students who do rely on the grant funding. And if they don't have that ability, how are we going to fulfill this big gap we have? And it's a tsunami right now. It's a gap. We need more dental assistants out there. We need more trained professionals sitting beside the dentist so that they can do their job properly. So my big thing right now, Michael, is I'm very concerned. I'm concerned that we're going to have more of a shortage, and you're going to have untrained professionals or untrained people, helpers, sitting beside the dentist, and the public is not going to know. And it is a public safety risk. And that's what we have to really focus on, the risk to the public. I want to know whoever's sitting there, this is a healthcare profession. We wouldn't allow, untrained nurses to be sitting there next to a doctor in a hospital. So why would we allow, we need to have trained professionals. And if you cut that funding, the way it's looking right now, we're going to have more of a shortage of dental assistants. And I think that's critical right now. And I think that we need to put up that flag and say, look, we're going to be in trouble here. And I'm hoping that the dentist can have a voice here. They have gone to Queen's Park. They have talked about it. And I think we just need the politicians to understand what a critical point we're at right now, and whether it be federal and provincial, because this is across Canada. There's a shortage, not only in Ontario, but across Canada. It's not just here.
And I found it interesting. We didn't talk about standardization and recognition of credentials across provinces, but I find that interesting because it's regulated in other provinces, but not in Ontario. There's all these other impacts that have a role. My favorite story is talking about personal support workers, that not only do we not have coordination of the skills needed across the country, we can't even come up with a name that everybody uses the same to define that job. So we call it healthcare aides, continuing care aides, personal support workers, all kinds of different names, personal care aides. There's lots of work to do, but I think there's an optimism to both of you. I'm going to start by thanking you, Cheryl, for your volunteering. I've got a volunteer board, and you're putting in your time and effort to make your profession better, and I know that's greatly appreciated. And Tara, for you to make the time to join us today. It's always a little daunting to jump in with people you don't know and have a conversation like that, and I appreciate it. I will look you up, and I have a feeling we're all going to be chatting more in the future about the things that we can do together in partnership. So we're going to keep talking about the evolving role of dental assistants, the importance of standardization and advocacy, and what it takes to sustain a strong oral health workforce across the country. So I want to thank our listeners for joining. I want to thank our two guests for joining, and we'll be back to you soon with another edition of the EdUp Canada podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the EdUp Canada podcast. We release new episodes regularly, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when they are officially out. If you love this episode, please leave a 4 or 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts so that others can also discover how a set of skills can lead to success. Thanks for learning with us.